Good evening, and thank you for joining today evening. And again, as usual, we'll start with a breathing exercise to quiet our mind. And after that, trying to generate good intention, motivation for being here before we start today's talk. So just try to watch your breath mindfully. Then we can try to generate or cultivate good intention by thinking. Our time coming here together to listen, to engage in discussion, reflection, contemplations. May it become cause and conditions to engage in the practice of six perfections. And may it become cause and condition to actualize the bodhicitta mind and wisdom, realizing emptiness. And may it become cause and conditions to achieve the fully awakened state, so we can be most help and benefit to each and every sentient being. And may it be cause and condition to cultivate more enthusiasm or joyous effort in our practice, in our path, in our virtues, in our Dharma practice. Okay. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient. Sangye chodang zoge zonam ma chanchu bado dane kya dagi shushe gibe sonam dola benje sangye doba Sangye chodang zoge zonam chanchu bado dane kya dagi shushe gibe sonam dola benje sangye doba. So we have been discussing on the practice of six paramita, and within that, the fourth, the practice of enthusiasm or joyous effort. Yeah, we discussed and talked about that last week, and I think in relation to this, I'm going to read a couple of in one of the prayer to the Bodhisattvas material. It says, "It's by the effort, so joyous effort, that I must practice the perfection of effort without enjoying laziness." The obstacle for the joyous effort is the laziness. So instead of enjoying the practice, we enjoy the laziness. So by enjoying the laziness, it is saying here, it says, you cannot develop enthusiasm in our practice. So by the power of the mind and body, I wish to accomplish the perfection of effort. So the main obstacles to the perseverance and joyous effort is the laziness, and we'll talk a little bit about that. And then also, Lama Tsongkhapa in one of his prayer the verses at the very beginning, middle, and end, he says, "I pray I will apply myself to enthusiasm, achieving virtues unachieved." So in order to achieve virtues that we have not already achieved, one must apply the joyous effort, enthusiasm, improving those attained, and for those virtues which were already attained, in order to maintain, in order to hold and maintain them, so that we don't, which were already achieved, does not decrease or diminish, So we need to continue to put effort, joyous effort in that. And those which we have already been able to maintain and hold on, in order to improve and get more stronger and better, then again we need to put enthusiasm and joyous effort in order to do that, without. And so therefore we need a joyous effort or enthusiasm for all this purpose, for all these reasons, And then to do that, what we need to do is vanishing utterly threefold debilitating laziness, so by overcoming the laziness. So in order to cultivate the joyous effort, we already mentioned last week, when we talk about the joyous effort here, there are three things, there's a perseverance or the effort, so that is one. The object of such perseverance and the effort has to be virtues, okay? And when we put effort, while we put effort or enthusiasm in the object, that is the virtues, then it need to have the quality of joyfulness in that. So these three qualities, as a bodhisattva's practice, as a paramita, the paramita of perseverance or joyous effort, it need to have those three qualities, the object being virtues, and in terms of engaging, there's an effort or perseverance. But not only there is effort and perseverance, but also there is a joyfulness, a delightfulness while you put the effort and enthusiasm or the perseverance. So those are the three things. And in order to cultivate that paramita, then need to come three main obstacles, three obstacles. And or three opposing forces, by gathering for supportive or conducive forces or the practice. Okay, so that is how to cultivate that. So first, let us talk a little bit about the opposing forces, or the obstacles or opposing forces to develop that joyous effort. One of them is laziness. And of course, that is one of the biggest kind of obstacles for our practice. Laziness. Feeling, kind of dull. Uninspired. Not having the energy. Sometimes physically, sometimes mentally, sometimes both. Not feeling like doing the practice. So, and then sometimes even when we feel like kind of feel like practicing, doing practice, but then again, there is another level of laziness that we keep on postponing it. I want to practice. I would like to practice, but not now. Maybe an hour later, or maybe in the evening. And by evening, maybe tomorrow morning. By tomorrow, maybe next week. And then by next week, maybe next month. And like that, time goes by. And time goes by, we never know how time goes by. And then when we look back, oh, it has been 5 years since I met the Dharma. Or it has been 10 years since I met the Dharma. What have I done so far? And sometimes there isn't much for us to show in terms of study, practice. It feels like we just met last month, last year, because the time go very fast. Not being aware of that. And so we keep on postponing, and not, always have some other excuse why we cannot start now. Why we cannot start now? We have some excuse. Why we cannot start today? Why we cannot start tomorrow? Why we couldn't start next week, next month? We all have some excuse. Basically, all those excuses come because of the laziness. If we don't have laziness, we would not have those excuses. We will find, time and energy and a way to practice, engage into the practice, engage the virtues, So that is laziness, especially not only laziness, keep on postponing. So in order to overcome that kind of laziness, that keep on postponing, thinking, I have the time, or I can do tomorrow, and like that is, to overcome that laziness, that kind of laziness, then we have to meditate on impermanent in general, and especially that impermanent, by meditating, by knowing, I might not have time for tomorrow. I might not, if I keep postponing, if I don't do today, I might not be tomorrow. So with that meditation on impermanent, and especially that impermanent, where we all have to come to an end, life come to an end, it's only a matter of when. And not only it comes to end, it might come much more earlier than we expect. or we think. We see every day, we hear news every day, every second. So many people are dying every second in the world. And not everyone who is dying that every second, they are not necessarily old. They are not necessarily unhealthy, Even young, healthy people die suddenly, and we are not exception from them. We are not exception from them. We are fortunately lucky, it hasn't struck us so far, but we don't know when it's coming. We cannot say for sure that I will be there tomorrow, next week, next month, And if these feelings, that I will have time to do the practice can kind of deceive us and, can make us waste our time, can make us, live the life almost like empty without much to show by the end of our life in terms of our virtues, in terms of our practice, even though we have so much time, So, but if we meditate on death impermanent, not just one time, but regularly until we feel, my last, this year, where we feel this year could be my last year in this world. Not only, maybe even this month could be my last month, or even this week could be my last week, or even today might be my last day. Because it's absolutely possible. We are not just making up. Reality, the fact is absolutely possible. And so through that meditation, when you started to really feel, this year could be my last, or this month, or this week, or today could be my last day, then you feel, I cannot waste my time. I need to practice whatever I know, whatever little I know. I have to apply. I have to make most of it. So then it gives you kind of sense of urgency, sense of, not postponing, sense of, the need to practice now, according to whatever practice we know, according to whatever we can, in meditation practice that we know that we can do, according to our level, our understanding, according to our studies, capable. So we apply that, And then you have no time to be lazy, not lazy. One of the Katamba masters says, yeah, he meditated on that impermanent every day twice, in the morning and the afternoon, because if he doesn't meditate, then, his days go by being wasteful. But when he meditated in the morning, then throughout the day, it inspired him to practice. Then he meditated again afternoon, and then inspired him the whole rest of the day until the evenings. And that is what inspired him to practice, That is why Milarepa, didn't have time to sleep so much, because he felt every moment is so precious. Every moment is so precious. No time to waste. And because like his body, of course, even you don't want to sleep, your body want to sleep, sometimes your body just fall into sleep, So he did many kind of things to not to fall asleep, Sometimes you will have, like butter lime up there, So if you fall asleep, it will fall, So, you will wake up, Sometimes he will tie it up, like hand and like that, with the legs and like that, different things, so that he doesn't fall asleep, because he felt every moment is so precious, can't waste it. And that is how he achieved his enlightenment, with that kind of effort. That's how he achieved enlightenment, with that kind of effort, So when they understand that, that life is short, life is very short, even though sometimes it feels like life is long, but it's very short. It is very short. And life is so short. So, when you feel life is so short, then, you don't want to waste it. You want to make most of it, And so that is what drives them to have more energies, inspirations, and not to waste the time, and to practice whatever time you have, and make it more meaningful, So that is, so meditating on impermanence in general, and especially that impermanence, can be very helpful to overcome that laziness, that kind of laziness. Keep on postponing, thinking there is time waiting to us until we finish everything, Sometimes we feel like the time is waiting for us to finish all our projects. The time does not wait for us. It doesn't wait whether we have finished our practice or not. It doesn't wait, whether our project is finished or not, whether our project has been started or not, So therefore, yeah. And then, one of the other obstacles is, getting attached and attracted to worldly things, meaningless, essenceless, worldly things, samsaric things, So we get very much attached to that. We very much attracted to them, and thereby, we get very much distracted to those things, and we find hard. We have so much time to all of that, but we struggle to find time for practice towards virtues, isn't it? It's not that we don't have time. We have a lot of time, but a lot of time, where do we spend? A lot of time we spend, samsaric, worldly things, a lot of worldly samsaric things, meaningless, and why we get distracted with them? Why do we spend so much time? Because we are very much attached to them, because we are attached to those things, those experiences, and so therefore we struggle to find time for practice, time for virtues, time for meditations, Even you are retired, still you struggle to find time that, Even after retirement, you struggle to find time for practice, for meditation, to virtues, But, and so therefore, that is one of the things, again, not being able to find enthusiasm or the joyous, the effort into the virtues, because we kind of get distracted, and due to attachment to the non-virtues or neutral, samsaric, meaningless, essenceless, worldly things, So that is how, again, that's one of the things, So again, in order to overcome that, then we try to, again, meditating on impermanence in general, that impermanent can be helpful to overcome that kind of attachments. Meditation on, those objects, the objects of attachments, they don't necessarily bring real happiness, satisfactions, A lot of time they bring disappointment, more suffering, more pain, more dissatisfaction. So, but again, using our own experience from the past, using our own experience where we're attached to certain things, we very much wanted that things. We work so hard to get those things, and then once we started to become disappointed, unhappy about that. We work so hard to get that, but after you get that, not long ago, we started to become, unhappy, dissatisfied, disappointed, and some of them lead to more pain, more sufferings, and if you look from more kind of, more bigger pictures, it doesn't really have much, meaning in that, there isn't really true meaning in that, So by understanding that, and through that understanding, then being less attached, less attraction, less attached to them, um, having less desire, less attachments towards those things and objects, and how being attached to them, and how by chasing and running after them, how we create more negative karma and cause of more suffering and more pain. So those kind of meditations, meditation on emptiness of those objects, by seeing, there is nothing really essence in the object itself, there's no true meaning in the object itself to be so attached to, to hold so tightly, so preciously, and so through that kind of meditation, then we can be able to reduce the attachments, overcome the attachments. By having overcome the attachments and attractions towards the, worldly, samsaric things, then again, we will be less distracted towards them. If we have less distracted, then again, we will have more energy, more time towards the virtues, towards the path, towards the practice. So you will find more, we will be able to find and more effort and more perseverance towards the virtues, towards the practice, towards the meditations. So so through those meditation, then we overcome those two kind of opposing force or obstacles to the to cultivate that paramita or joyous effort. Then another obstacles or opposing force is not having self-confidence, not having belief in yourself that you can practice, that you can, accomplish the practice, that you can accomplish the virtues, that you can accomplish whatever practice you are trying to do, especially on the bodhisattva's path, that not having a confidence that we can achieve enlightenment, believing, I'm not capable, thinking I'm not capable, bodhisattva's practice required big heart. I'm not big heart enough, it required a lot of lot of practice in terms of time, long times. Maybe I cannot do that, I cannot, that means I have to have compassion, love, bodhicitta towards all sentient beings. I'm incapable of that. I can't do that, it's not possible for me, so it means there is a lot of great bodhisattva practice. And so, just kind of not having the confidence. And when you don't have confidence, then, you don't have the inspiration in the practice, anything to achieve anything, you need to have a certain level of confidence that you can achieve that. If you don't have that confidence, you already lost, and you already give up from the very beginning, even before the battle started, So having a strong confidence and belief is very important. The strong confidence, belief in our practice, strong confidence, belief in our meditation, in our practice, and in what we are trying to accomplish, achieve in our virtues, it is very important, So again, to encounter that kind of, low self-esteem, and not having enough confidence, then we try to meditate on the Buddha nature, how we all have that potential to become fully enlightened, the Buddha natures, and so that will help, knowing that we have that potential, uh, and also knowing, some of the practice, even it seems very difficult at this point, if we continue to practice with the time and with the familiarity, they will be more easier. It will not remain difficult all the time. And again, with our own experiences, maybe at the very beginning, when we first met the Dharma, you even have difficulty sitting properly. It was a struggle. Just to sit cross-legged, it's a struggle. But for many of you now, it's just normal. There's no struggles. Why? Because it's a familiarity, with the practice, familiarity. And especially the mind has even more flexibility when we are familiar with that, to become so easy. And so how difficult the practice might seem at the very beginning, but knowing that, if you continue to practice with the time, it will become easier and easier. So again, that can also give us a little bit more confidence and think, oh, it's too difficult. I could never overcome that, knowing that it's difficult now, but it can be easier and easier as the time goes by. Also, as a bodhisattvas, even we have to come into the world where there's so much pain and sufferings, where sometimes we feel, my suffering is already overwhelming. I cannot, come again that to suffer, But if we really practice, and then, on the bodhisattva path, with the loving kindness, compassion, trying to be kind to others, then we purify a lot of negative karma, and through other form of purification and practice, we purify the negative karma which we have created before. We create less and less negative karma, so there will be less and less suffering as we go by. And with our practice, as we create more and more virtues, more merit, then again there is more and more joy, both on physical level, as well as emotional, mental level. So if there is less and less pain, suffering, if there's more and more joy, then, there wouldn't be any difficulty coming back again to the samsara, to the world, in order to be benefit to others, And so therefore, again, thinking that, oh, I can't do that, again, by reflecting, contemplating that way, then again, it can give us some kind of inspirations and, not be scared and fearful of the bodhisattva's practice and the path. And instead of being discouraged, it can be encouragement and confidence, And so those are the three opposing forces to have the enthusiasm and the perseverance into the virtues, into the practice on the path here, especially Bodhisattva path practice. By overcoming them with the different meditations to encounter them. And then in terms of gathering the four supportive conditions or the forces, one of them is aspirations, having aspiration towards your practice, towards the virtues, towards the path, If you have aspirations, then, you will be less lazy, you will have more enthusiasm, perseverance in your practice, As I mentioned at the very beginning, one of the laziness is not having the aspirations, Sometimes we become lazy because we don't have the aspirations, But if you have aspirations, then you will be less lazy, That aspiration gives you some kind of energy boost, kind of energy boost, And so in order to have aspirations towards the practice, towards the path, towards the virtues, then we need to reflect, contemplate, meditate on the benefit and greatness of that practice, the benefit of that practice, the benefit of that path, the benefit of that virtues, the benefit of that practice. The more you meditate, the more you feel the benefit of that practice, the more inspiration you will have towards that. Just like in negative side, we have that, the more you hear when you are attached to something and you really want to get that, you really want that. And the more you hear how good that is, how unique it is, how so many different new functioning it has, this and that, the more you feel you need to get it. Same in the virtues. The more you understand and feel the incredible benefit that comes through that practice, incredible benefit that comes through that practice, path and meditation and so forth, the more inspiration you will have. More and stronger inspiration. The more and stronger inspiration you have, the less lazy you become. The less lazy we become in our practice, in our virtues, in our path. So that is one of the supporting factors. The other supporting factors is, as I mentioned before, is the self-confidence. The self-confidence, steady mind, When we have self-confidence, we will have more steady mind and more steady perseverance, When we don't have self-confidence, someday we feel we can achieve, someday we feel, we can do it, and we have a lot of perseverance, effort, and then someday we think, oh, it's not for me. This is not for me. I cannot achieve this. I cannot do that. And then your mind started to become low. And then your enthusiasm, your perseverance become low. Isn't it? Our practice, up and down. Sometimes you feel so inspired and lot of enthusiasm, a lot of energies, effort. But then sometimes we think, you started to lose some kind of confidence, feel like that, I cannot achieve, I cannot achieve, I'm incapable, I'm not good enough, to this practice, to this path, on this path, on these particular virtues and that. And when you feel that, when you feel I'm not good enough, I'm not capable, then your energy becomes low. Your aspirations and your enthusiasm become low, And so in order to have a very stable, perseverance, effort, you need to have that kind of strong confidence and belief, And that is same, whether it's a Dharma practice or whether even in our other projects, activities, the confidence and belief, self-belief and self-confidence is so crucial for the success. Otherwise, we lose enthusiasm. And so that is one of the supporting factors. The other supporting factors is so here, by overcoming the first three, what you call the three opposing force, then we overcome the laziness and distractions towards the non-virtues and towards the samsaric objects, and therefore direct our mind towards the virtues. Then through the inspirations and self-confidence, we develop a strong, stable perseverance, effort towards that. So, and then, creating joyfulness in our practice. The third supporting factor is cultivating and creating joyfulness in our practice, in our path, practice meditations, So if we have the joyfulness, again, it helps us to have continued perseverance, continue enthusiasm and effort in our path, practice meditations, If we don't have joyfulness, even if we have some level of perseverance at the very beginning, slowly, we might lose that perseverance. Slowly, you start to become tired of the practice, meditation, or the path. You start to become tired and boring, and slowly it feels like it's a kind of burden. Slowly, your practice might become a cause of stress. It is possible, So why? Because we couldn't find joyfulness in the practice, because there is no joyfulness in the practice. So, and then again, I think as someone cautioned last week, if we don't have joyfulness, should we give up the practice? No, joyfulness doesn't come from the very beginning, We have to create conditions to feel more joyfulness. And a lot of time, if you stick with one particular practice, whatever form of practice, you stick with one practice and you become familiar with that practice. And because you are very familiar with that practice, it requires less effort. And then you will start to enjoy more when there is less effort required. Like everything's. When you have to put a lot of effort, then it becomes more tiring and less enjoyable. But when it requires less effort, because you have been doing the practice, the meditations, so for a long time, and you are so familiar with that, so then slowly, it requires less and less effort to do the practice, the meditations. And when it requires less effort, it becomes more joyful. So that comes from the practice, through the practice. I guess that is not only with the practice, it is same with most of the things. When you are trying to do some kind of exercise, maybe even yoga, maybe at the very beginning, you know, when you don't know how to do struggles, you don't enjoy. But after some time, you get used to his rhythm of that, familiar with that, and you just go into it and you enjoy it. It's same with all other activity, whatever form of exercise, even walking, even hiking, all of that, you know. The joyfulness doesn't come from the very beginning, you know. Yeah, and same with the practice, you know. There are certain practice, you know, that when I was asked, given to do, you know, at the very beginning, you know, I wish I didn't have to do that, you know. That is how I felt, you know. I wish I didn't have to do that, you know. That is how I felt. Some practice, you know, didn't enjoy it, you know. And I even try to kind of, you know, get exception not to do that, you know, from teacher, you know. You know, but I couldn't do that, you know. I had to do it, and I did it, you know, because my teacher asked me to do it. Even I wasn't enjoying to begin with, but with the time, as I started doing regularly, with the time, I started enjoying it, you know, and it came with the time. It came with the time and practice and familiarity, you know, being used to that, and so afterwards, you know, even my teacher said, now you don't have to do that. I still continue to do that because I enjoy doing that, you know. So 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 that is one of the things, and I think I have already mentioned before as well, you know. Also sometime, you know, even in practice we can be creative, and sometimes we just have to be creative as well, a little bit, and find a way to make it more enjoyable, you know, and without losing uh, the essence of the practice. Without losing the essence of the practice, sometimes we can be a little bit of we don't have to be so rigid and kind of, this is the only way how to do the practice, you know. You get um, you know, there are meditation practice how to do it, but sometimes one part of that, certain part of that might not be, might be a little bit struggle for someone, and they just have to kind of change it a little bit where they don't struggle with that anymore. And when they don't struggle with that, then that could change, you know, being more enjoyable than not being enjoyable. And so those are the things that we just have to kind of figure out, and just trying to find how to make it a little bit more enjoyable. um, yeah. Yes. um, and then lastly, the fourth supportive um, factors, or the force for this practice is relaxing or resting, you know. So when we sometimes we get inspirations, we have enthusiasm, lots of perseverance, and we get too excited, and then we do too much and not being able to rest, relax, and then we end up kind of burning out ourselves sometimes, because sometimes your body needs some rest, sometimes your mind needs a little bit rest, and sometimes when we become too excited because of a lot of enthusiasm, so much inspiration, so then we don't listen to our body and mind, and we don't take care of it, body and mind, when it needs rest, we don't give rest. And then, then you kind of we overdo it, and then we get too tired and kind of burn out, collapse, sometimes physically, sometimes emotionally, sometimes both. And then after that, we lose the enthusiasm and perseverance. Then we don't have kind of stable enthusiasm, stable perseverance. And then we lose that. So very important to really listen to our body and mind, knowing it, listen to it, being aware of that. And when it needs rest, learning to give rest and relax. When we are being lazy, then we need to kind of put little bit more effort. But when we need to relax, we need to relax. And so finding that balance is important. That balance, like everything's balancing is the key, And that is also Buddha's teaching, middle way, always finding the middle way, the balancing. Sometimes we become too lazy and not do anything, or sometimes we push ourselves too much, and not being able to find that balance and not being able to, find the middle way can be obstacles. And so that is where, we talk about enthusiasm, we talk about putting effort towards our practice virtues path, but at the same time, there are times when our body and mind need to relax and rest, and to be able to give that, to be able to do that before you collapse, before you burn out, and sometimes, we are reaching that point, but sometimes we are not aware of it. We don't pay attention. So if you pay attention, then you will begin to understand and be more aware of your body and the mind. And then before you reach that point, you just need to rest and relax. Sometimes our body needs to relax. Sometimes our mind needs to relax. Sometimes both of them need to relax. So knowing and that, and with that, then it gives you more steady, continuous, stable kind of effort and joyfulness in our practice. And with that, then we will be able to, progress more smoothly, more quickly, with a better result in our practice. So, yes, so I think maybe so with that, I think we complete about the fourth paramita, the paramita of joyous effort in the virtues of perseverance. So I think, yes, Amanda, you have something comment to make?
I have a comment. Some classes ago, you were talking about the Precious Jewels Sutra, Clouds of Precious Jewels Sutra. And in it, you were saying about something like, by me using this umbrella, may I protect all from the rain of afflictive emotions. And by opening a door, I can think, may I open the door for all sentient beings to experience enlightenment, and things like that. Mm-hmm. So when I was thinking about that, I realized that all the time ago, more than 2,000 years ago, when Buddhism was being put together, it was being set up in such a way that somebody like me with very, very limited understanding could connect. And I guess it felt really significant that because a lot of the classes, they're very complicated and I don't always follow everything. But when I was reflecting on what you said, I realized that Buddhism is set up for the very basic understanding all the way through, you know. So that was one thing. I found that encouraging. And then I also thought about Shakyamuni Buddha, who set that up more than 2,000 years ago, and how what he did then has affected a person, a woman in the future, really affected them and helped them. You know, like I'm on the other side of the world, and 2,000 years in the future, I thought, like, you can't get more of a stranger than that. And it made me think, well, that's a role model of how to bless strangers, I suppose. So I don't know if I'm making any sense, but I just wanted to share that.
Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts, your feelings with the rest of the group. That can be also inspiration for some others as well. So definitely, thank you. So if there is any questions, comment, we can still have one or two. Otherwise, yeah. So.
Heather has a question.
Yes, please.
Hi, Geshe. Thank you, Mary. How do I know if I actually need rest or if I'm just being lazy?
Yeah, that is, I think, listening, knowing our body and mind, you know. So sometimes our mind can trick our body to be lazy and make it feel like, you know, you need a rest when it is not. Your mind is just kind of tricking, you know. So basically, you know, if your body is you know, there are certain signs, you know, to check on whether your body really need rest or not, you know, where you are pushing too much, you are doing too much. And that, so sometimes there could be some signs, you know, for example, you know, sometimes people can feel kind of pain around here or here, you know, or different places, you know, those are little kind of signs, you know, maybe there's little stress or something, some other things, you know. And so there are certain signs, you know, that someone can look for, physical signs. And also with the mental, also same, you know. Sometimes it's not, you are not being lazy, you know, you try to put a lot of effort, your mind doesn't function. It's kind of blocked. There is a blockage, whole things. And it's better to rest than trying to push that time, you know. And it can happen while you are studying Dharma. It can happen while you are doing a retreat. That it can happen while you are in meditations, you know. So sometime like that, sometime, you know, you can have, in Tibetan we call wind lung, you know, kind of wind disorder, you know. So you started to have some kind of unable to sleep, you know, having kind of stress, feeling here and there, and those times, then again, it means you need to kind of take it easy and relax, you know. You can't push yourself too much in like those kind of things, you know. There are certain signs, you know, like that. So yeah. Okay, so then I guess there's no, so we can do the dedications. May all beings everywhere, plagued by the suffering of body and the mind, obtain an ocean of happiness and joy by virtues of my merits. May no living creature suffer, commit evil, or evil fall ill. May no one be afraid or belittled with a mind weighed down by depression. May the blind see forms and the deaf hear sounds. May those whose bodies are worn with toil be restored, finding repose. May the naked find clothing, hungry find food, May the thirsty find water and delicious drinks. May the poor find wealth. Those who weak with sorrow find joy. May the forlorn find hope, constant happiness, and prosperity. May there be timely rains and bountiful harvests. May all medicine be effective and wholesome prayers bear fruit. May all who are sick and ill quickly be free from their ailments. Whatever disease they are in the world, may they never acquire again. May the frightening cease to be afraid and those bound be free. May the powerless find power, and may people think of benefiting each other. For as long as space remains, for as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you. Good night.
Geshe.